infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Sunday, June 21st, 2020. My name is Thomas Hunt, and this is the World Crypto Network. The price of Bitcoin is up 1.29% in the last 10 minutes or so. The price continues to climb as we do this show. With a last of 9,401, a high of 9,431, and a low of 9,254. That's $1 for 10,645 Satoshis. Volume was low for a Sunday with 1,378 Bitcoins changing hands. The market continues to lean long with 80% heading that direction. Bitcoin dominance is at 65.64%. But that's not what we're really here to talk to you about today. Today is Big Book Day. It's Sunday, and Sunday is Big Book Day. Here's a preview of coming big book attractions. You do have to suffer through the news, though. Wes Anderson, a big book about all the great Wes Anderson films. Rushmore, Royal Tenenbaums, the one with the fox. I hear he's fantastic, that fox. Wes Anderson coming up. We've also got Steven Spielberg. That's right, the man behind Jaws, E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark, and some movie about a horse. I think it went to war. It might have been A War Horse. I read the play, but I didn't see the movie. And finally, we've got another book about Woody Allen. Nobody likes Woody Allen anymore. Everybody's all mad at him. I still like him. As Woody says on the back, I don't want to achieve immortality through my work. I want to achieve it by not dying. Still funny, still smart. Put all that other stuff aside. Woody Allen, Wes Anderson, and Steven Spielberg. Books coming up on Big Book Day. But first, we've got news. Profound photo comparison. Look at the empty seats. One man with a mask. Make America Great Again in the upper decks of Tulsa. And the president returning home from the rally. His tie undone. His hat unworn. Before the rally and after the rally. Before the rally, tie tied, optimistic, happy president. After the rally, tie untied, head down, shoulders slumped, hat unworn. Defeated president. How was he defeated? TikTok teens and K-pop stans say they sank the Trump rally. Did a successful prank inflate attendance expectations for President Trump's rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma? They said there were going to be millions of registrations. They prepared an outdoor area that could seat up to 40,000 people standing outside. But they didn't need it. They had tons of empty seats and couldn't even fill the 19,000-seat arena, which is probably a good thing because they spread less virus this way. But it didn't make this guy happy. Meanwhile, 2020 continues to deliver like an overflowing sewage plant, says author Charlie Strauss. He's upset because the natural hybridization of two Ioxid ticks has been reported previously in western Siberia. However, now it appears that these hybrid ticks are overwhelming hospitals in Siberia with tick-borne encephalitis and borreliosis. That's right, super ticks in 2020. In the same place, Siberia, that's overheating because of global warming. We've got it all going in 2020. It's the greatest year ever. And now, more Bitcoin news. Mad Bitcoins? And Doges? Top 5 signs Bitcoin is quietly entering a new bull market phase. 5 signs are pointing to Bitcoin being in a bull market. despite its inability to break through multi-year resistance at 10,500. Let's see what they've got. Sign 1, the trap. They say there was a trap on the market, extinguishing the bears, the big crash. Second sign, the range. Bitcoin apparently is in upward going range now. We'll see what happens. Third sign, the order book. Taking a look at the Binance order book, there are significant sell levels, and resistance is at 9,450. Support is at 8,700. Fourth sign, alt season. In case you missed it, the long-awaited alt season is seemingly upon us. According to Cointelegraph, history tells us that when altcoins run, smart money sells back into Bitcoin. Rinse and repeat this process a few times, and the super cycle occurs. But what drives this madness? Well, that would be thanks to the crypto influencer space. Fifth sign, crypto influencer IQ is at an all-time low. There we go. Some of you may or not know this about whoever this guy is who wrote this piece. They were in the crypto scene on YouTube and picked up close to 50,000 subscribers talking about Bitcoin and altcoins. But during their first halving cycle, they were very naive and personally believed that many altcoins would outperform Bitcoin. While this is true of a handful of projects, it is not something that the majority of crypto influencers have a clue about, and I was no exception. Either you get lucky with a pick or you have a big enough following to push a low-cap coin up 400% by talking about it for a few minutes, making you look like a crypto investment guru. The sheer number of crypto videos and crypto tweets I am seeing lately attempting this, as well as the rise or so-called return of crypto experts, is simply staggering. All this combined to the fact that my email inbox is filled with offers to promote various coins and ICOs again reminds me of the beginning of the 2017 bull market, the bull run that changed the public perception of Bitcoin forever. Dun dun dun! So, bullish scenario, if Bitcoin closes above 9,600, it would invalidate the descending channel, putting Bitcoin on a path to attack the dreaded 10,500 multi-year resistance level. This is the definitive level that needs to be broken to enter a true bear market. On the flip side, bearish scenario, 9,150 is the first level of support, followed by the bottom of the channel around 8,700 as the final level for buyers to step in. Losing 8,700 could put Bitcoin in a massive death spiral, which he personally considers wishful thinking from bitter bears that didn't buy the dip at 4,000 in March. 3 ways Bitcoin traders can spot and avoid crypto market manipulation. Just hodl and chill the fuck out. Bitcoin community isn't a fan of Trump administration's corporate credit program. You mean where they're just buying up everything and anything in a desperate attempt to put a bottom in the market? There's the bottom. It's real. Ransomware gang auctions off U.S. healthcare data for Bitcoin. Sounds like a sweet deal. Healthcare data for Bitcoin. Maybe they should have had better security in the first place. And the latest pandemic shortage. Coins are the new toilet paper. No one has any coins. Banks around the country are running low on dimes, quarters, nickels, and even worthless pennies. The Federal Reserve, which supplies banks, has been forced to ration scarce supplies. It was just a surprise, says Dempsey, who runs the Bank of Lincoln County in Tennessee, when she learned of the rationing order. Nobody was expecting it. They typically have 400 to 500 rolls of pennies each week. Under the rationing, she was cut down to just 100 rolls of pennies. You think about all your grocery stores and convenience stores and a lot of people that still operate with cash. They just have to make that change somehow. Or they could just round up and eliminate all coins. They're worthless and a waste of time. Thanks so much for watching. Check out World Crypto Network store at worldcryptonetwork.store. We've got the Trezors Don't Float t-shirt, the Bitcoin Not Bombs Bitcoin 2020 Halving Special Edition t-shirt, the World Crypto Network t-shirt, and the mug. Order them all at worldcryptonetwork.store. Check out the World Crypto Network podcast at worldcryptonetwork.com, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Overwatch, and other places where podcasts are served. It's up to date. You could even watch or listen to yesterday's episode. The price of Bitcoin is up 1.12% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,383, a high of 9,431, and a low of 9,254. That's $1 for 10,656 Satoshis. Volume is low, but it's a Sunday with 1,389 Bitcoins changing hands. The market leans long at 80%, and Bitcoin dominance is at 65.64%. Before we do the news, let's see. I think we're ready for the news. We should do a big book, though, first. Let's check out Wes Anderson and his amazing book about Rushmore and other films. Here's a random pick from one of my favorites, The Life Aquatic by Steve Zissou with Bill Murray. Fantastic work by Bill Murray. Again, all Wes Anderson movies are about fathers. This one is no different, with Bill Murray being an adopted father to Owen Wilson in the film and adding a great deal of complexity. As with all Wes Anderson films, you're going to want a sideways cutaway showing the entire set, in this case, the boat, Steve Zissou's boat, The Life Aquatic. You can see the details in these dioramas and in these artworks. Later, this kind of work would make it actually into the movie as they recreate this in real life with moving characters. Again, Wes Anderson started off small, but later on gets to fulfill any and every one of his absolutely crazy dreams. Here's Owen Wilson in India, presumably riding on the back of an elephant, filming the Darjeeling Limited, a movie about trains, and of course, fathers. It's always about fathers in Wes Anderson, just like it's always about kidnapping in the Coen brothers. That's just something they're into. His first film was Bottle Rocket. Here they are writing the name of their film, In the Snow, a film that launched Wes Anderson and Owen Wilson. It's about bank robberies by men who I don't think have fathers. They have kind of mobsters that they're friends with. Guys from The Godfather, Jimmy Caan, is in the movie. There's Bill Murray again, this time in Rushmore, being a rich person who fought in Vietnam. Were you in the shit? Yeah, I was in the shit. Rushmore, a great film, really launched Wes Anderson, brought him to my attention. So much about stalking and hiding and peeking into windows. A very voyeuristic film. If you haven't seen it, watch it a second time and really think about Rushmore, how it's filmed, and how he created that feeling of Max and his obsession with that girl. Here's a little bit of Royal Tenenbaums, loosely based on J.D. Salinger's fantastic series of genius children's stories. Wes Anderson takes the stories a little further into the future, and we see that it's pretty tough to grow up as a genius. It's not so easy. Here's some postcard pictures, cut-ups from various films put together in a style that perhaps Wes Anderson himself would enjoy. His films are also often about obsessive-compulsive disorder, perfect lines, and I've even forgotten my favorite one. The one with the Boy Scouts. Moonlight Kingdom, something like that. But I love that picture, and I would watch it again. Moonrise Kingdom. Here's some shots of it. Ed Norton plays a Boy Scout leader. Again, everything is laid out perfectly. Everything is organized perfectly. It's a quartermaster's wet dream, right? A Boy Scout, an organized man, obsessive compulsive. Maybe, right? But it's a great story about a young boy. He's an orphan, doesn't have a father. Good Father's Day. pick here from Wes Anderson. And he goes on an adventure, a journey. He's obsessed with a woman. We're getting a theme here. And yeah, it's just a great film. So check out Moonrise Kingdom, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Rushmore, the rest of the Wes Anderson films. If you haven't, he's great. Definitely top 5 directors with Tarantino and P.T. Anderson from Boogie Nights. And much, much more these days, but still, Boogie Nights. Whew, what a film. Anyway, that was your palate cleanser. Drink a bit of water. Get ready for the next round because the president had a rally last night. Oh boy, oh boy. Let's find out what happened with the president's rally. Richard Feynman says, stupidity is knowing the truth, seeing the truth, but still believing the lies. And that is more infectious than any other disease. Judge Royce Lambeth has denied the Trump administration's attempt to block the release of John Bolton's book. And as you'll see later, it's already out. It's only supposed to come out on Tuesday, but it came out yesterday. Surprise! More on that soon. The Southern District of New York that was just fired, had their U.S. attorney fired by Trump, is handling just a couple of investigations that Trump and Barr might be interested in. Rudy Giuliani and Lev Parnas, Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew, Deutsche Bank, Turkey, inauguration funds, and Russia. So it's very strange. It's only been since Friday. They fired the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, seemingly for no reason, on Friday night, without even telling him first. He read a press release. Mikel Gillette says, I've spent a lot of my life studying cults. I was born in one. We escaped when I was very young. We witnessed mass denial, magical thinking, abuse, and violence. And I just wanted to say for the record, there is a cult gathering happening in Tulsa today. And we found out in the news, 6 members of Trump's Tulsa advance team tested positive for the coronavirus. Just to put this on some scientific basis, they were talking about this on the news. They said if there's about 126 people on Trump's advance team and 6 of them tested positive, and if there's going to be, at the time they were assuming 20,000 people in the arena, they thought there'd be at least 1,000 people in the arena based upon those numbers who might have the coronavirus and who would be spreading it and sending it around. So it's a very bad statistical sign. It's very bad for those 6 people who work for Trump, and they likely came in contact with many, many more people. So it's going to take a couple weeks before we really see the results of this, but hopefully everyone's okay, but much more likely everyone is sick. After General Barr was unable to remove the Attorney General by telling him that he had resigned, he says now that the president has fired him. So another botched resignation by Barr, making a mess of it everywhere. Jeff Tiedrich writes, imagine exposing your most fervent supporters to a plague with no cure because it's the only way to fill that empty place where your soul should be, and to prove to your father's ghost that you're not the loser he said you were. It's getting dark out there. Christopher Bouzet writes, Congress must impeach Barr and also impeach Trump again. This level of corruption can't go unanswered. And we still have till Monday to see Congress's official response. As we've been saying, Barr put out a press release saying that someone had agreed to quit when he didn't, and then is accusing that person of being the one who created a public spectacle. Really takes the cake. Yes, it doesn't make any sense what Barr's doing. He's acting bizarrely. Keep in mind, in Siberia, there's incredible amount of warming. It's way too hot this summer in Siberia. As Antonio French says, if America is so anti-science that we can't agree on a plan to deal with a pandemic that is obviously occurring in real time right in front of us, how will we ever deal with this slow-moving environmental catastrophe that's been heading towards us for years? It's a good question. They were arresting people at the Trump rally because of T-shirts. This woman right here had a ticket to the rally. She wanted to go, and her shirt said, "I can't breathe." The police picked her up and took her in, arrested her because of her T-shirt. Only in America. People are still going back and forth on Ulysses S. Grant. They say he was a slave owner in that he was gifted a slave, hated the idea, and freed his slave within a year. Then he won the Civil War, prosecuted the KKK, and appointed African Americans to prominent roles in government. So it really does seem like where you set the timeline in a person's life. Do you say in the middle of his life? That's where we judge him. At the end of his life? It seems like the totality of the life, the entire life, is the thing to judge, not a certain point where a certain thing happened. But then again, I don't know. It's cancel culture. We just might have to cancel Ulysses S. Grant, who was also a drunk, and I'm sure he did all kinds of other things. Thousands of people are rolling into Trump's rally. It's like watching passengers board the RMS Titanic in 1912 if they had known in advance that the great ship was going to slam into an iceberg and sink. That's a very Poseidon Adventure feeling. If you knew that the Poseidon Adventure was going to happen and the rally was going to turn upside down and you'd have to carve your way out through the hole if you wanted to get out of the ship. Kaylee said she wasn't going to wear a mask, saying it was a personal choice. Science and viruses, all that stuff is now a personal choice. So Kaylee is suddenly pro-choice out of nowhere. Unbelievable. As the Lincoln Project jokes, "I will be removing my car's brakes. You have the freedom to keep driving with brakes in your car if you want. Preventing me from driving as fast as I want would be an attack on my personal liberties." Good stuff. Trump told reporters that he's not involved with the firing of U.S. Attorney Berman, despite the fact that Attorney General Barr said in a letter on paper that Trump had fired Berman. So if you fired someone, you're involved. If you didn't fire them, then maybe Attorney General Barr is running wild with some kind of stamp that signs the president's signature, and we need to keep an eye on him. Maybe he needs to be impeached because he's not following the president's orders. Maybe he's gone rogue. Mitch McConnell knows that his only chance to win is through voter suppression. That's why there used to be 3,500 polling places in Kentucky, and now there's 200. The voter suppression is so obvious, you'd have to be some kind of a mathematical idiot not to see it. 3,500 polling places become 200. It's sure great the civil rights got rid of that Voting Rights Act. Thanks, Supreme Court. Supreme Court did a great job there. Trump doesn't want to say he fired him because it's obstruction of justice. Ooh, things are getting tighter. Here's Trump outdoors with an umbrella getting ready for the helicopter, says, "I'm not involved." Oh, I remember when President Truman said the buck stops here. And then Trump says, "I'm not involved." You're the president. You're involved in everything. If you're not involved, you should get out of the office. It's insane. Here's the video of the protester arrested for wearing a T-shirt. You can see she's got kind of a face mask protectant on. They're lifting her up. They're carrying her out. Maybe she was just sitting, refusing to move. Good nonviolent strategy. They're dragging and carrying her out because she wore a T-shirt. Looks like they're arresting her. Look at that, just dragging the feet. But that's the way you got to do it. Make them carry you. Make a scene. Just go limp. So, excellent protest. And the cops in Tulsa and everyone looked ridiculous. She was wearing a T-shirt. Free speech. America. Hello. Hello. I thought we were all for free speech. Paul Graham writes, "This year, we're making an exception, and we're giving the Darwin Award not to an individual, but to a group." A rally goer says, we had a friend who died from COVID and his son was on a ventilator. He almost died. So we know it's real. But at the same time, you don't know what the facts are. You feel like maybe one side plays it one way and the other side plays it another. No, it turns out the virus doesn't care. It'll just kill you. It doesn't care which political party you're in. Virus doesn't care. More and more is coming out about Gavin Andresen and Craig Wright's proof session. According to Dan the Dark Pill, Gavin was jet-lagged out of his mind, so he failed to verify almost everything. And this is, again, the most important verification you've ever done in your life. You're about to sell us whether or not there's a Satoshi Nakamoto. Everyone on the internet was like, hey, I'm sure Gavin could have taken a night off in a hotel room and proved this the next day if he wasn't up to it, right? It's the most important thing you've ever done, Gavin. This was your entire reputation on the line. And apparently you failed to verify anything. You didn't get a new computer. You didn't get it from the factory. Different versions could have been downloaded. The excuse is that he thought the Satoshi proof was for him and not the world. Comes off as a little bit gullible, suggestible, unquestioning, and perhaps willfully. So it turns out more and more that Gavin Andresen just seems to be a moron. It's very unfortunate. He's an early contributor to Bitcoin. He's a very smart guy. But when it comes to making decisions, it just seems like an unbroken run of bad decisions, starting out with his decision to meet with the CIA, which he messaged to Satoshi, and Satoshi promptly disappeared, never messaged anyone about the project again. Followed with this decision to fail to verify anything when Craig Wright said that he was Satoshi. The other thing he said out loud that if Satoshi came back, he would give him back the keys to the repository, the ability to edit Bitcoin. As soon as he said that, all the people who have the ability to edit Bitcoin took it away from Gavin Andresen because it was clear Gavin couldn't tell Satoshi from a random con artist from Australia, and that he couldn't be trusted with the keys if he was willing to randomly give the keys away to someone who may or may not be Satoshi. Now he's backing Ethereum. So Gavin Andresen, unbroken string of bad decisions, just keeps going. Let's see. Trump is terrified and desperate. Actual sequence of events. The Attorney General announces a U.S. attorney has resigned. The U.S. attorney says he hasn't resigned. The Attorney General announces the president has now fired the U.S. attorney. The president says, I'm not involved. It's like a slapstick comedy here. It's a farce. It's good old-fashioned farce, but it's real. It's insane. So, yeah, that just keeps happening. The Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas has warned their employees, if you feel ill or sick, you must stay home. Well, how about paying some sick leave? Maybe if employees and people who worked for you, again, the people of Fight Club, we take out your garbage, we run your security, we do your dishes. The people that do the dirty work, the real work of the country, don't have sick leave, don't have vacation time, don't get retirement. They don't get anything, right? They're the ones who can affect you. Your whole rich world is built on these slaves, these people that you have do these menial tasks. Now, yes, they're trying to replace them with robots as much as they can and as fast as they can, and we've seen this coming a long way off. But still, society relies on people. The person who brings in your food, the person who prepares your food, the person who takes care of your kids. It's time to give them health care. It's time to give them sick leave. It's going to affect you. What happens to other people eventually affects you. I know it's a crazy concept. It's insane. But yes, we're all interconnected. The butterfly effect is real. All of this stuff's true. If your maid gets sick because she can't take a day off, if you get sick because your blackjack dealer can't take a day off, if your waitress can't get a day off and she coughs in your drink, that's it. Gets to you all the way. There's nowhere to hide. Nowhere to hide from this virus. Meanwhile, the United States is halting hydroxychloroquine clinical trials after finding no additional benefit for COVID-19 patients. So where are all my hydroxy heads? Come on, get me Will Pangman. He was so sure this was a miracle drug, and the media is hiding it, and the government's hiding it, and it's a conspiracy. Everyone's hiding it, and the doctors aren't using it enough, and the doctors are secretly using it because they know that it works, and they can't tell you, and they can't tell the other people. And, oh, it's all a big conspiracy. Well, it turns out it doesn't work. They've stopped testing it. We're stuck with 63 million extra doses of this garbage, and it was all obvious from the beginning. All you had to do is read the studies. All you had to do is look at the studies. It's ridiculous. It's not clear whether Barr or Trump can fire U.S. Attorney Berman and how he must be replaced. He must be replaced by a Senate-confirmed confirmation through the district court or through Senate confirmation. So this isn't over yet, and he's expected to testify to Congress on Wednesday. So Bolton book officially released on Tuesday. Berman testifying to Congress on Wednesday. I'm not sure what's scheduled for Monday. We're going to get the official reaction of everyone in Congress to these firings. Lots of speeches. It's going to be a hot week. All right, I feel like we overdid it on the news, but there's still so much more news. And there's political ads, and there's quotes from the rally. So we have a lot more news coming up, but I wanted to clear it out just a second. Let me make this a little less reflective. Although I have a better button for that. Let's try this one. Steven Spielberg, the book. Picked this up for, I don't know, maybe $5 to $10 at Barnes & Noble. I love to look at the clearance section there. I'm all about clearance section, and unfortunately, I'm all about coffee table books, which are just too effing big to read. They're difficult to read, but they have big pictures, like this one right here. Looks like a dinosaur. Looks like the lower half of a dinosaur being filmed there for Jurassic Park. Looks like we might have a focus issue as well. So come on, camera, do that focus thing. But yeah, look at, here's a great Steven Spielberg book, one of my movies, one of my favorites with Robin Williams. It's Hook. Great movie, Hook. Some of those same kids were in Mrs. Doubtfire with Robin Williams. There's some little continuity of his children there. But truly a magical movie. I remember in Hook, Robin is an uptight businessman. It's a lot like Jim Carrey in a lot of his movies. He has to, like Yes Man, he plays a normal person for a while, and then he breaks out of it, right? He becomes free. So that was really cool. Here's one that no one likes, 1941, with Jim Belushi. I watched it once. It's a very strange World War II kind of parody. It's just not very funny. It's very slapsticky and silly. And here's one of the first movies. Oh, well, I mean, I think it's the, might be the first movie I ever saw in theaters. It was a re-release of E.T., probably around 1986, 1987, back when you couldn't watch a movie if it wasn't in the theaters. That was it. That's another reason why you have so many of these great film books with pictures. At that time, if you wanted to remember the movie or as a film student, examine a scene, you would need pictures like this. A big book full of pictures would be your only way to review the film. And if you wanted to see it again, you'd have to wait for something like, this is a weird Tom Hanks movie I haven't seen. Might be Terminal. This might be the one where he lives in the terminal. Not sure. Or maybe the Captain Sully one. Yeah. Now he's making Munich. Oh, there's that AI movie where he took half of Kubrick's movie, and the Kubrick half is much better than the Spielberg half, and you can tell pretty obviously in the film. But yeah, no, you didn't have endless access to film back in the day. You'd have to get books like this and books with even more detailed breakdowns of scenes, and then you would pore over the individual frames of the scene, and you would think it through and think about how powerful, say, Psycho was or Goodfellas. And you wouldn't just watch Goodfellas 100 times because you have it on DVD with beautiful widescreen graphics. So there's a little bit of Steven Spielberg on Big Book Day, really breaking it up, getting us away from the news. But of course, there's more news. Let's see, where were we? the excitement of the news. More and more on the Berman issue. This is a really big deal. This is like in Nixon. Remember, he had the Saturday Night Massacre. We talked about it the other day. He fired Archibald Cox then because he wouldn't do what Nixon wanted. And then the next guy wouldn't do it. And then Ruckelhaus wouldn't do it. And then they got, still can't remember his name. It's like Bohr or something. But they got this guy that everyone hates to come in and do it. And later on, he tried to become a Supreme Court justice, and they blocked him. So it's pretty exciting stuff. The Attorney General is supposed to represent the people of the United States, not the president. Seem to have forgotten that, though. Max Kaiser says that he loves competition. A few years ago, we saw some competition among altcoins trying to take on Bitcoin. Bitcoin crushed them, and all key metrics prove that Bitcoin is running away with the market, and no alt survives. The next stop, Bitcoin competes directly with gold and USD for global supremacy. Sounds good. King Kobe is laughing at Kentucky, who cut their polling places from 3,700 to 200, saying that the United States is such a toilet country. One polling place for 616,000 voters. That's insane. Representative Nadler says the House Judiciary Committee will open an investigation into the Berman firing, likely starting this Monday, as soon as they can announce it. Here's the barricade gates that are open to allow people into the Trump rally. Note that very few of these people are wearing masks. That girl with the hat we saw, she was interviewed the other day. But this is the problem with these events. You're always going to have a security situation like this where you have to check people, you have to check their tickets, and this is where you spread the disease. Everyone's right next to each other, breathing on each other, coughing on each other, and there'll be more of this inside as they walk down small hallways to get them to the arena. These arenas, especially all indoor buildings, are currently not designed to not spread virus. I read a great article the other day about how tuberculosis shaped our architecture, and that things that we understand from hospitals, the way everything's white and clean and the edges and the tile, things like this, all came from sanatoriums trying to deal with tuberculosis. And this idea of bright white being clean and this idea of open spaces and light and cleanliness, a lot of that has to do with fighting TB. So we might see a whole nother second round of that as we redesign our architecture and our world to fight coronavirus and things like coronavirus in the future. Trump had an area outdoors that was intended for an overflow crowd. You can see it stretches almost an entire street, multiple street blocks here. There were very few people in the overflow crowd, and they canceled the outdoor speeches. Sure, obviously, if they didn't want to spread the virus amongst their people, they could have had the entire speech outdoors right here. They could have even done social distancing, but they didn't want to do that because the president doesn't like that. Scott Dworkin writes, Trump's rally is an abomination. Almost no one wearing a mask. All crammed in like sardines. But what gets me the most is the fact there are kids there with no masks on. This is the most grotesque and un-American event in modern history. God help us. And I do think it's going to be studied in the future. All these people risking their lives to hear a speech. It's not a good deal. And then to risk your children's lives as well, bringing them directly in so they could be exposed directly. Very strange decision. It's always going to ring. Attendance was well below expectations. As you can see here, the floor was not full. You can see the cement floor, and the upper deck was noticeably almost empty. So they just about filled the bottom bowl. Some reports saying about 6,000 people, well short of the 19,000 it would take to fill the room, the 40,000 expected outside, and the over 800,000 signups that they had online. Even making campaign manager Brad Parscale say that it was an impressive data haul. One of the most disgusting things I've ever heard said publicly is that not only was it impressive because all these people wanted tickets, there was so much great demand, but it was an awesome data haul because now they can email all those people. But it turns out A bunch of them are internet people and K-pop stans who stood up and they don't like the president and they signed up for fake accounts and they got thousands of fake tickets, creating an impression of false demand, leading to disappointments. In San Francisco, they tore down the statue of Francis Scott Key outside of the D. Young Museum in Golden Gate Park. I used to be a member of that museum. It's a great museum. It's sad. They're destroying history and statues and things, although, as they say, Francis Scott Key was a slave owner, and he was also not a fan. Let's see. Not only profited from slaves, but harbored racist conceptions of American citizenship and human potential. Africans in America, he said, were a distinct, inferior race of people, which all experience proves to be the greatest evil that afflicts a community. Okay, so that was pretty freaking bad. Again, there is some kind of historical line that we have to draw. We have to judge these people based upon their own era. It's a little unfair to pull them out of their era and then judge them by our modern values. Certainly, these are horrible things to say, though. So there has to be some kind of line there. Just like when you're talking about baseball, you're talking about the height of the mound, whether or not the players had to work part-time jobs, if they could play baseball in the summertime, stuff like this affect the statistics. You can't just compare one ball player to another across the board, even though they're playing a very similar game. It's much more different with society and culture. But we don't seem to care anymore. And again, maybe we don't need these statues of people in public. Maybe we need more statues about the public, more statues about the United States, the country, less about individuals. They say the crowd size is pathetic. They estimate it's half full. The city of Tulsa estimated 100,000 people would be downtown. Trump said he had 1 million people who had requested tickets, but they just sent out a text saying that there's still space inside, and the arena was estimated to be half full at that time, around 10,000 people. James Gleick writes, "At this point in the clusterfuck, neither Barr nor Trump has come up with a reason for firing the U.S. attorney in New York. Of course it will be a made-up reason, but they're supposed to at least go through the trouble of making one up." As we said before, the overflow section outside was canceled because nearly no one showed up. The Sacramento Sheriff's Office is refusing to enforce California governor's order requiring residents to wear face coverings in public. Dan Poiriero has the right solution, says, then fire them. That's absolutely right. If they won't enforce the order, fire them, especially on masks. If you're not wearing a mask, you're spreading the virus. You're on Team Virus. What's wrong with you? Don't you like people? Get on Team Human and stop feeding Team Virus. Wear a mask if you're around other people, especially if you're inside. During his insane and rambling speech that went on for almost 2 hours, Trump said he told his people to slow down coronavirus testing in America because it was increasing the number of known infected. As Scott Dworkin says, this is a cover-up. This is criminal. It's also insane. I don't know how to explain this to you, but it's pretty obvious. If we stopped testing for cancer, there would still be cancer. Testing doesn't create the problem. This is some kind of misunderstanding of Schrodinger's cat. You've taken some kind of advanced physics concept and downplayed it into some kind of ridiculousness. But no, under no circumstances does increased testing spread the virus. This is ridiculous. So if we tested everyone in the country, lots of people would not have it, and the tests would turn out well. Yes, as we're testing mainly sick people, we mainly get positive tests, but the other side of that is we don't have enough tests to test everyone in the country. And again, the only way that we can control viruses historically throughout all of time, it's the same thing. You have an outbreak, you try to control it, you try to put a box around it, right? You have everyone wear a mask around the outbreak. Then you do contact tracing. Who'd you come in contact with? Well, we're going to isolate them so they don't get more people sick. And what you try to do is to get that R number down, right? This is an amazing virus. It's an R3 or an R5. That means for every person that get it, they spread it to 3 other people, to 5 other people. And that this is exponential, right? If it goes 3, 3, 3, that's 9. You know, that's not 1, 1, 1. That's 3. It's a lot more, right? It can get out of control. One person could spread it to up to 57,000 people through all the different exponential spreads of it. So testing doesn't affect that. Like it's I can't believe the president's saying, I can't believe if you're still with the president after his misunderstanding of how testing works, I don't know what you're still doing with him. Like this is, and again, there's lots of other things, social issues and tax issues and all these other things that you like about the president. But if he can't understand that more testing is not spreading the virus, or more testing is not making us look bad, it's not exposing some evil truth, the truth is still there. If we have 70% viral infection and you don't test it, we still have 70% viral infection. We just can't prove it, right? Tests give us information that allows us to prove things and to use science to go back to those strategies, to encircle the virus, to separate people who have it so they don't spread it. The virus spreads from human to human transmission, to get everybody to wear masks. If we could get up to 50% or 70% mask wearing, which isn't that big of an inconvenience, you can still go out, just have to wear a mask, we could kill this virus and get back on with our lives, right? Hashtag Team Human. Fuck the virus. It's not that difficult. So I don't understand that. Trump was telling a story, as Caitlin Collins said. Trump has repeatedly brought attention to his unsteady walk down the ramp at West Point, as aides have complained about the media covering it. In Tulsa, he is going into detail about it and points to his shoes and mouths. They're leather. He was, as I said, he was telling a 10-minute plus story about Trump versus the ramp. He said that it was like an ice skating rink. It was a sunny day. There was not a cloud in the sky. It wasn't wet at all. Ice skating rinks are ice that's frozen water that's very slippery and wet. So for a ramp to be like an ice skating rink, at the very least, it would have to have water on it, right? Then it would have to be cold outside to make the water into ice. Otherwise, a ramp wouldn't be like an ice skating rink. It's like Alice in Wonderland in here. Why is a raven like a writing desk? Because it's never the wrong way round. Never. Never. Raven backwards. Never. Anyway, look that one up. Trump says he was talking to his wife about the speech that he gave at West Point. And apparently Melania Trump is still telling him the truth here. She says, they didn't mention the speech. They mentioned the fact that you may have Parkinson's disease. Oh, zing. The wife coming out with it. Yamiche Alcindor agrees that the president spent like 10 minutes talking about his infamous walk. He also bragged about his ability to drink water. It was unbelievable. These are weaknesses. You shouldn't be bringing these up. Like, you had a bad day. You had a bad couple of days. You explained it once already. No one believed it that time. No one's buying it this time. But he does embarrass his supporters by getting them to applaud and cheer a man who can walk down ramps and drink water. That's the level that we're at. And Wes Anderson, Steven Spielberg, they're working on all these movies, getting all this detail done. But this guy, he can walk down ramps and he can drink water. This was pretty crazy. I think maybe we'll play some of it. We'll have some fun. We'll play some Trump from the rally. And again, CNN and MSNBC didn't carry this rally live. They knew it was just going to be endless propaganda and bragging and other nonsense. Fox News carried it live breathlessly. CNN covered it later with clips a little like this.
So then I finished saluting my final salute. I said, thank goodness, thank you very much. But think of it, so essentially almost 600 times. Now, The general says, "Sir, are you ready?" I said, "I'm ready, General. Where are we going now?" You have to understand, I left early in the morning to get there. Now it's sort of late in the afternoon. A lot of these fakers were with us. So they know.
Whoa.
He said, "Sir, we can now leave the stage." I said, "Great, General, let's go. I'll follow you." And he goes like this, "Right here, sir." I'll walk on.
This is pretty unbelievable. He's doing the comedy bit. You're supposed to do it with your knees so that you like simulate climbing a ramp. He's showing the bottom of his shoes. He's like, "I can't walk things. I can't walk." This is pretty crazy, huh?
And the stage was higher than this one.
My,
And
the
ramp
stage was hot.
probably 10 yards long. I say, "General!" Now you got to understand, I have the whole Corps of Cadets looking
He thinks
at me.
they're buying
And
this.
I want them to love their president. I did this big thing. I love them. I love
Made a
them.
speech.
They're incredible. And
That's
they do.
the big thing.
I said, "General, I've got myself a problem, General, because I'm wearing leather bottom shoes, which is good if you're walking on flat surfaces. It's not good for ramps. And if I fall down, look at all those press back there. Look at that. And this was a steel ramp. You all saw it because everybody saw it. This was
Steel
a
ramp.
steel
Whoa.
ramp. It had no handrail.
No
it was like an
handrail.
ice skating rink.
It's like an ice skating
And I
rink.
said,
How?
"General, I have a problem." And he didn't understand that at first.
'Cause he can
I
walk
said,
down
"There's
ramps,
no
no
way."
problem.
You understood? I just saluted almost 600
Can't
times.
walk down a
I
ramp.
just made a big speech. I sat
Can't walk
for
down
other
a ramp
speeches.
after that.
I'm being baked. I'm being baked like a cake.
How can you expect someone to walk down a ramp after they've made a speech or saluted? My goodness, that's impossible. That's impossible. Walk down a ramp. Then he explained that he drank water oddly to save his tie. He continued this madness. After successfully drinking the water, the crowd chanted, "4 more years." Ramp Capital said, "This Trump stand-up special is actually pretty funny." Sarah Cooper agrees, saying they are now cheering the president's ability to drink a glass of water. It's pretty funny. He was talking about this for 6 or 7 minutes. As I said, all he really wanted was his own talk show. He just wants to have his own talk show where he can have fun, do gags, and walk around. Everyone could laugh, and everyone would love him. But everyone doesn't love him. He became a very divisive president instead of a very uniting talk show host. He could have had fun. Could have said all the silly things he wanted. Then, out of nowhere, he says that he wants a 1-year jail penalty for flag burning. In the next paragraph, he said that he was in favor of free speech. So he's really zinging all over the place. Here's where he talked about the water on his tie. Again, bragging about how his tie is silk and how it's expensive, but at the same time exposing the difficulty that he has drinking water, how he has to think about it a lot. It's a very complex operation for him, whereas many other human beings just effortlessly pick up glasses and drink water and don't have to explain about it for 2 to 3 minutes. Very strange series of speeches. The president also brags that he shook hands with people at West Point last weekend, even though health experts say it's not a smart thing to do during a pandemic. Will he get the virus? Maybe. They're saying now that drinking a glass of water is proof of qualification for high office. Then Trump told everyone not to sell their stocks. He said he'd done a phenomenal job with the pandemic. 119,000 Americans are now dead. His masks, maskless. His fans, maskless in an indoor arena. Cheer. Testing is a double-edged sword, he continues, saying that he urged the people to slow down the testing. The layers of delusion are disorienting. And here's a comparison video of Vice President Biden walking up the same ramp at West Point. He's also walking up the ramp, which may be even more difficult. Look at the way Biden's knees work. Look at the way he can move himself athletically as if he works out, as if Vice President Biden is working out, getting exercise, not eating fast food every day, and never exercising his entire life, which he's publicly claimed to be the case. Just one more time. If the competition is really about who's capable of walking up and down a ramp, it's all Biden. Trump looks like a doddering old man. I love he says the final 10 feet of the ramp I ran off. It looks to be about 4 steps. It seems to be about 2 to 3 feet. And yes, look at him run off. He's like, oh, I did it. I mastered that treacherous ramp. And again, it was like ice skating rink. You see all the green grass and the sunshine? There was ice on that ramp, my God. How did that general make it down? No handrail. Amazing. No handrail. And there he is reenacting the event for you right there. How difficult it was for the president to walk down a ramp. What a champion he is. His ramp walking skills. Next, he began bragging about how he ordered new airplanes for himself and how the TVs on Air Force One were no good, and what a lousy country America was with no good TVs for the president. He promoted Boeing and his negotiation with Boeing. He found it difficult to even say the word coronavirus or COVID-19. He called it this thing, like Voldemort. The virus cannot be named. Later on, he referred to the virus multiple times as the plague. The plague. He was recounting his negotiations with Boeing. He said he wanted the number to be under 4. They brought him back a number that wasn't under 4. And he said either to the general he was negotiating with or directly to Boeing. And he said these words out loud, too, at his speech. Don't you understand, you dumb son of a bitch? Don't you understand? So again, just completely unpresidential language. Used to be something that we'd care about. Now no one cares because everything else is on fire too. Here he is bragging about how he made the call to install new TVs in Air Force One. Remember when you were unemployed? Remember when everyone lost their jobs because the coronavirus shut down all small businesses? I'm the one who solved it. I'm the one who installed new TVs in Air Force One. That's amazing. That's amazing. You want to hear him say, dumb son of a bitch? Nah, we've heard it enough. A lot of the speech was spent making fun of and doing jokes about Joe Biden. One of the things he said is that Joe Biden never did anything. He was a senator. He was vice president. It sounds like doing an awful lot to me. Trump was never senator or vice president. We've arrived at the doing Putin's business part of Trump's speech. This should be great. The president's going to brag about Putin's decision, the president's decision to remove troops from our ally Germany to make them more exposed to our enemy Putin. Here's the president bragging about his ability to do good work for the Russian president.
When I take
Oh, come on. YouTube, Twitter, you're killing me here.
When I take soldiers out of countries because they're not treating us properly, Germany is an example. I mean, I have a German heritage, like some of you. I said, let's get it down from 50,000 to 25,000 because they're delinquent. For many years, they're delinquent. They haven't been paying what they're supposed to be paying. They're paying 1% instead of 2%, and 2% is a very low number. And they say, yes, we think by 2030, maybe 2032, we can get current. I said, no, Angela. Angela, please. Don't say that, Angela. It's true. You know who I'm talking about. Nice, by the way, very nice woman, very good negotiator. I said, Angela, that's a long time. This was in 2019. She said 2032. I said, no, Angela, that's not working. But I said, what about, because now they want to get current, but I said, well, what about the last 25 years, all the money you owe us? Everybody forgot about that. They forget about all the money that wasn't paid. I said, what about the $1 trillion that you really owe? So we're negotiating, let's see. But in the meantime, we're reducing our troops. Remember this, remember this. We're supposed to protect Germany from Russia. But Germany is paying Russia billions of dollars for energy coming from a pipeline, brand new pipeline. So they pay the country we're supposed to protect them from. They pay billions of dollars to that country. We're supposed to protect them. Excuse me, how does that work? How does that work?
Have you ever heard the expression penny wise and pound foolish? Because that's what this seems like. They owe us 2% and they gave us 1%, and that's a big difference. And they owe us for the past 25 years. All this debt collecting just seems like he's working over these little itty-bitty stacks of pennies that don't matter at all. And meanwhile, the entire global game of all the trade we do with Germany, all the trade we do with Europe, all the free trade that we have in the world, all our ability to access markets, everything that having the military there provides, he just looks over. He can't quantify that. For 50 years, for 100 years, we have all this peace. He can't see that at all. Or maybe he just works for somebody else. Maybe he doesn't work for America. Just a reminder, terrorism hardly kills anyone compared to coronavirus. It's true. As Lana Slavitt said, so I said to my people, slow the mammograms down, please. They're finding too much breast cancer. Seriously, just have to be a moron to believe that. Trump talks about his fear of the cameras, his fear of falling, explaining in his walk that Melania told him that the people said he had Parkinson's. He doesn't address that part. He just brings it up. Trump used the term Kung flu to describe the coronavirus. A few weeks ago at the White House, they said that an aide used the term to her face, and the White House tried to hint that she was making it up. Now we know that the president uses the term, which is seen as derogatory and racist and damaging our relations in China. Trump had a real Nixon sweat running under his nose. He was getting frothy. I'd love to see a transcript of this speech, if it was even written, or if he's just rambling and riffing from issue to issue. So much of it is just insane, out-of-nowhere, bizarre statements. No decorum. None at all. Trump says that despite the fact that his administration put kids in cages, he claims that the cages were built by the previous administration, so it's their fault. But you filled them. Senators are in the crowd not wearing masks, presumably going back to the Senate to infect everyone tomorrow. The governor and lieutenant governor of Oklahoma were both there, not wearing masks. This is stunning. It felt like we were watching a televised chickenpox party. It feels like this is the kind of thing that will always be studied if there is history. They say Trump's rally could be a possible super spreader event. They say the rally, by Tulsa health officials, say the rally could create a perfect storm of disease transmission. Perfect storm. Trump was trying out a new slogan. You don't have the guts to vote against Trump. Well, maybe coronavirus destroyed them. He was speaking in Tulsa for more than 90 minutes. That's when this report came out from Drudge Report, a famous right-wing website. Drudge Report showed a picture of the empty seats on the second deck with the caption, MAGA less mega. Drudge has turned on Trump and doesn't see the same gigantic movement that they saw just 4 years ago. Trump claimed the national motto was "In God We Trust." We all know that was added to coinage during the Red Scare. The real national motto is "E pluribus unum," from many, one. "In God We Trust" added to coins. He could have asked his pal Roy Cohn, who worked for Senator McCarthy, who was a big deal back in the Red Scare. He's quoting famous song lyrics at the end of his speech. The best is yet to come, something like that, which I think Bill Clinton used to say as well. There's an interesting monster in the crowd, looks like a puppet, has a Trump face with a pig nose and devil horns. They also had some KKK hoods in the crowd. Amazing how well they fit in with the Trump puppet. What a very strange and evil-looking Trump puppet there in the crowd. Good work by the protesters, really bringing that image as a Latin American kind of riot to it. It's kind of a Brazilian feeling, I guess. They said on Fox News that the Bok Center was about 2/3 full. The person responded, "Yeah, looks packed and definitely sounds packed." That's funny. They could have just had the rally outside. Justin Day is learning how science works, and Seth MacFarlane, creator of Family Guy, is the one to teach him. Justin said, "Remember when we weren't supposed to wear masks unless we had symptoms because we were taking supplies from medical professionals who needed them? The rules change every day." Seth MacFarlane explains, "Yes, because that's what happens with emerging science. All you can do is trust the best available research at the time, as you should. It's the only weapon you have. As science makes strides towards solving the mystery, it's our responsibility to keep in step with it. And yes, information changes. We didn't know anything about this virus, and we're constantly learning more and new things that sometimes invalidate the old things." As FDR once said, "These 3 months or so will live in infamy, to varying degrees, depending upon which state you live in, and also how local officials handled this situation." Yes, we used to be the United States. We used to work together as one. Trump doesn't even realize that it's damning that he admits, or at least claimed to admit, or joked about admitting, that he slowed down coronavirus testing, which would have worked for the virus and worked against our ability to control the virus. A true team virus action. Unless, of course, he doesn't work for the United States and he would prefer our people to get killed. It's very strange how that keeps happening. So I said to my people, slow the testing down. It's just insane. It's an insane thing to say. For those of you who are interested in John Bolton's book, The Room Where It Happened, check out Jester Actual on Twitter. They have linked right here to a Google Drive where you can download a PDF version of the John Bolton book. This way you don't have to give John Bolton any money for refusing to testify and refusing to save the United States of America. This piece of shit wanted money instead. You can download the PDF version right here on the Google Drive. There's a link on Twitter. Once you download it, if you'd like, you could get a program like Calibre. It works for the Mac, Calibre, Calibre, or any of the other PDF to Mobi converters. You can even just Google the words PDF to Mobi. This will allow you to convert the PDF file into an ebook format, and then you could just send it to your Kindle. Amazon Kindle allows email attachments, even Mobi files that are just like ebooks. So if you want, you can download the new John Bolton book for free on the internet. It's all over the place. I even hear you can get it from the Pirate Bay. So check it out. John Bolton, The Room Where It Happened. I started reading it yesterday, and I really wish he'd testified. John Bolton is very intelligent and very controlled in the book. It reminds me a lot of James Comey's book, where you know you're reading a book written by a cop. James Comey has a very police officer feel to what he wrote. John Bolton, it's like you know you're reading a book by a spy. Everything that John Bolton says is correct, but he's just very tight with his prose. He's very tight the way he explains things. And he's also kind of telling the story as if he was the mastermind, as if he was the one in charge. And it seems really obvious that he should have foreseen all the troubles he was going to have with the Trump administration. But much of his prose is explaining this away, saying that he knew this, but he forgot it. And he knew this, but he overlooked it. So it's an interesting read so far, and a great addition to the library of Trump books that I've already been reading. So you can understand what's going on. You just have to read more. I know. John Cantrell has a great thread here on Twitter about Bitcoin. He says, "Are my Bitcoins stored in a wallet generated from a 12-word mnemonic safe?" 12 sounds a little low. You might want 24. John says, "Yes, but just don't give out any of your words on Twitter." Brute forcing Alistair Milne's wallet. Alistair had a little public project. He was giving out the words slowly. He would give out one word a day, or they'd have to answer a quiz question. Once he got to 8 words, he had exposed enough of his key for hackers with computers to guess the other 4 words. The only reason this happened is because he exposed 8 words. So he gave out like 8/12 of the key, right? So don't do that, and you'll be fine. If you do that, though, it was pretty impressive figuring out when they would be able to crack it. If he'd only given out 7 words, it might have taken them exponentially longer to crack it. But something about 8, they just broke right through those last 4 words. Interesting stuff, and a nice experiment by Alistair Milne. Nice stuff. Trump admitted that his campaign was failing during the rally and that things were not going well. A rare moment of truth. Swift on Security had some questions about so-called rubber bullets. Just so I understand, they're made of metal. Inside of rubber. Okay, but why is the metal in there? Well, you can't just shoot rubber at people. That would be stupid. You'd never kill anyone. Wait, what? Then it continues. You have to have an impact, a threat. But surely a rubber round from close range is extremely painful. Oh no, those aren't for close range. The metal needs to be in there for inertia. Wait, then why are you shooting it if you're not in danger? Who said anything about danger? It doesn't seem exactly clear what the rubber bullets or the tear gas are for. It seems like it only hurts people and makes things more violent. Here's a video panorama from inside the Trump rally. You can see the second deck is almost completely empty. They've spread out some people there. There are empty seats all over the place. Likely because teenage TikTok users and K-pop stans, that's funny, they changed it to fans here, but it's stans. Stan is pretty cool. It's an Eminem song about a fan that's really into Eminem. He's called Stan. So now they call it stanning, like you would stand for a group. You would be a diehard fan for them. So there you go. You learned something new today. Meanwhile, outside, after spending all day protecting Trump protesters, the Tulsa Police Department are now firing pepper rounds at Black Lives Matter protesters. But that shouldn't surprise you at this point. Oh, there they are right in front. You can see them. Guns out, blazing. So brave. Being a gang of people there, all back to back, shooting at unarmed people. There's a word for that. Heroism. Heroism. The head count for the arena from someone who's a stagehand at the local union in Tulsa was 6,611 suckers. That's the number that this sitting president in a red state in an election year during a pandemic could drum up for a rally. 6,611. Aaron Rupar writes, Trump is an incumbent who is campaigning with his country in much worse shape than it was 4 years ago. The disastrous Tulsa rally illustrated how difficult this is going to be for him. He's got no message. And he really doesn't. If you listen to it, he blames whoever's been in charge for the last 3 years for our situation, but he's the one who's been in charge. He just forgot. I tried to turn on the old lava lamp last night, but it didn't go. I checked on it a few hours later. It was going again. So lava lamps last forever, but you just can't watch them or they'll never go. Craig Harrington writes, maybe the Trump campaign really is the Death Star, a big, expensive mess that's easily defeated by untrained teenagers. Nice. Good one. Here's a compilation of people bragging about how millions of people had signed up for the rally. Let's check it out.
And like you said, I don't know if people caught that, but over 1 million people have requested tickets to come to this event.
Well, look, I think you're evidenced, though, by seeing 1 million ticket requests for this rally in Tulsa. I think it's time.
They're so excited about it that you have no idea. And we have had so many signups. You know, there are lines of people now, and we won't be there for 3 days. They have lines of people right now trying to get into the arena. I mean, they'll be there. They'll be early.
How many people
They'll be in one of
signed
those
up?
early front rows.
How many people signed up? Do you know?
Over 1 million people requested tickets. Well, there's just a hunger for the rallies. And
So you have this massive crowd. You have nearly 1 million tickets that are demanded out there. People pre-filling out their applications and whatnot to come in. What are you going to do with all these people that literally could be hundreds of thousands of people trying to come, and you've only got 19,000 seats indoors? What about all those other people? What are you going to do with them?
Well, there is an overflow crowd, but it really is a testament to people are ready to move on, and especially in Oklahoma.
they have a pretty new, magnificent arena, as you probably have heard, and we're getting exact numbers out, but we're either close to or over 1 million people wanting to go. We have a 22,000-seat arena, but I think we're going to also take the convention hall next door, and that's going to hold 40,000, so we'll have 22,000 plus 40,000.
1 million people. Didn't happen. And America's disastrous pandemic response in one picture. Here it is. National Review. Where does Ron DeSantis go to get his apology? Remember when they thought the Florida governor was right? Now we see Florida new cases above 2,500, the 7-day average of new COVID cases. Out of control growth in Florida. Shouldn't have reopened, huh? Seems pretty obvious now. Shouldn't have reopened. Testing and tracing would have slowed the spread of the virus. It worked in South Korea. People in the United States died needlessly so Trump could try to fulfill his dreams of personal glory. Once viewed as a reset button for a presidency beset by crises and self-inflicted wounds, Tulsa became a disappointing microcosm of Trump's blind spots and wishful thinking that left him predictably upset. It all went wrong for the president. The NCAA has banned championships in states where the Confederate flag has a prominent presence. It's nice to see. Seems a little late and everything, but welcome aboard. A reminder from the ACLU, burning the American flag is political speech protected by the First Amendment. Yes, that's right, the first one, the very first. And here's sad Trump coming home on his helicopter, his tie undone, his hat unworn, his shoulders slumped. As Ben Schwartz says, he looks like he just got turned down for a lap dance. Bad news in Russia. Pussy Riot's Peter Verzlov is nowhere to be found. At 7 a.m. Moscow time, his door was broken by the police, and he disappeared for more than 6 hours now. In 2018, Veroslav was poisoned by the Russian government and almost died. So there is a difference between the United States and other countries. There is a reason that we're fighting to keep our freedoms, and there's a reason that other people want to take them from us. This is Pussy Riot's a band in Russia that's critical of Putin, and for being a music group, for being critical of the government. He's been arrested by the police and disappeared. Previously, they were poisoned and chased from the country. This doesn't happen in America yet, and it's an important difference. If you were President of the United States, secure in your abilities and proud of your record, and you invited people to a televised rally to encourage them to re-elect you, would you spend 10 entire minutes defensively explaining your unusual behavior a week earlier? This is very strange. Put mandatory public mask wearing rules in place. It's the least expensive thing for our healthcare system, our society, and our economy. Until we have mask wearing for 95% of the population, we are not going to be able to stop this epidemic. There you go. That's all you need to do. Bad news, the Bolton PDF has been leaked to the internet. If you want to download the John Bolton book, there's a PDF on Google Docs. You can get it right there on Twitter. It's on the Pirate Bay, several other websites. If you use a program on Google, something like Convert PDF to MOBI, MOBI format, you could then send the document directly to your email, to your Amazon Kindle. So you don't have to give John Bolton any money at all. And you can still read the book. That is a pretty obvious retelling that he should have testified. If he was a patriot, he would have testified. John Bolton should have testified. Remember the 80s and the early 90s? Does anyone remember scoring personal pan pizzas from Pizza Hut through the Accelerated Reader program? Maybe that was a regional thing, but it was amazing. Read a book, take a quiz, get points, redeem pizza. And ours in California was called Book It. And you would get little stars for a little sticker thing. You could put stickers on it. And every couple of weeks, you'd get a free pizza. And as it says here, remember when Pizza Hut panned pizzas were basically a goddamn culinary delicacy? They'd bring them out in a real fucking skillet that was piping hot at around 700 degrees Fahrenheit, right as your third song kicked in on the jukebox after you'd played a game of Galaga. We were kings. That was a beautiful time, growing up in the 80s and 90s. Different than today. Kashmir Hill writes, we hoped body cameras were the solution to police misconduct, so cities spent a fortune on them. It turns out they didn't work. I love how we just keep giving the police more money and more gear, and it keeps not working. And then the solution is to give them more money and more gear and more officers. It's a great plan for them. Check it out, Citadel21.com. Episode 3, the Volume 3 of Citadel 21, their little newsletter thing, it's like a magazine, is now available. Check it out at Citadel21.com for Volume 3. Oh, this is fantastic. This was a great speech given by a gentleman to his local city council. He's there to talk about Robert E. Lee, but instead has to talk about one of the city council members who ignores him and is online shopping on her computer. This is a magnificent speech, an excellent takedown of the local city council. This guy right here should run for city council, at Gary Chambers Jr. Great job. Bad job, Twitter, though. It's like once the video fails once, it's like it just fails over and over again. So that's okay. We have a solution for this.
I had intended to get up here and talk about how racist Robert E. Lee was, but I'm going to talk about you, Connie. Next. So I had intended to get up here and talk about how racist Robert E. Lee was, but I'm going to talk about you, Connie. Sitting over there shopping while we talking about Robert E. Lee. This is a picture of you shopping while we talking about racism and history in this country. Only white members of this board got up while we were up here talking too, because you don't give a damn, and it's clear. But I'm going to tell you what the slaves, my ancestors, said about Robert E. Lee, since you don't know history, sister. Let me tell you that they said when he got the plantation, after he got off the field where 27,000 people died at Gettysburg, Connie, Robert E. Lee was a brutal slave master. Not only did when he whooped the slaves, he said, lay it on them hard. After he said, lay it on them hard, he said, put brine on them so it'll burn them. That's what Robert E. Lee did. And you set your arrogant self in here and sit on there shopping while the pain and the hurt of the people of this community is on display, because you don't give a damn and you should resign. You should have resigned 2 years ago when you choked a white man in his house. You should have resigned 2 weeks ago when you got on TV and said foolishness. And you should walk out of here and resign and never come back, because you are the example of racism in this community. You are horrible. Now to the rest of the board. You have an obligation to the people of this community, and 81% of them are black. And do you need a Klan rally outside, Mr. Goday, before you end it? Because holding it up means that you put that building in jeopardy. You do, sir. Because all over the country, they're burning stuff down. And black folks in this city have stood with protesters. I ain't seen you elected officials out there with them, making sure that nothing goes south in Baton Rouge. It's been folks in this community who give a damn, not just when it's comfortable, but every time. And 4 years ago, we came down here. Mr. Drake, they say you're a good man. Be a good man. Black folks say you're a good man. White folks say you're a good man. Your legacy is attached to tonight, brother. Your legacy. Now, let me say to the black members of the board, it's the most solidarity I've seen out of y'all in forever. Let's keep it that. Let's stand on this moving forward, because we don't need to apologize for Connie, Evelyn. She showed you who she was when she was sitting.
Fantastic speech. I wish it kept going. Great stuff from Gary Chambers Jr. in Baton Rouge, really giving it to Connie. Who's completely out of line, shopping during the speeches. And here's Connie, a member of the East Baton Rouge School Board, who implied members of the public needed to perform more research into the legacy of Confederate Commander Robert E. Lee before supporting calls to strip his name from a Baton Rouge high school. She's facing renewed calls from resignation from the community. Connie Bernard, Baton Rouge. As Scott Heckinger says about the speech, truly one of the best speeches I've seen at any level. Powerful, potent, fearless, to the point, mixed painful history with current local dynamics and events. Strong call to action. I wanted to keep listening to him talk. Connie couldn't handle it. She walked out. It was a great speech. I mean, I'm not a political expert, but my instincts say that if you have to make "I too can drink water normally" a major theme of your speech, that something has gone arguably awry. Drink water normally. And already the advertisements are coming out critical of Trump, exposing the foolishness of saying millions of people would be at this rally. Let's watch this one from the Midas Touch group.
They said you couldn't lift your hand up to your mouth with water. I start the journey inch by inch, right? I've taken water and it spills down into your tie. It doesn't look good for a long time. And frankly, the tie is never the same. When I was 10 feet short, I said, General, I'm sorry, and I ran down the rest, right? I said, how good was that speech? I thought it was a Hey, look, so far tonight, I'm average.
Powerful commercial and quick turnaround time. They got that out in less than 24 hours using footage from the failed Trump rally. We've got more closing in Las Vegas. Previously a tourist attraction, now a super spreader event for the coronavirus. Guy Fieri's restaurant at the Link is temporarily closing down due to a positive case of coronavirus. Once again, we've said this before and we're still trying to explain it to you, but you can't just reopen the economy before you kill the virus. If you reopen the economy before you kill the virus, workers are going to get sick and they're going to spread it to all your customers. Pretty soon, people are going to figure out not to go to the places where people are getting sick. This is a long-term problem that will persist. Think about the movie theaters. Think about the concerts. Think about the basketball games. They're all canceled. Nevada has a daily new high in coronavirus cases for the second straight day. Thanks to everybody for not wearing masks, going out there and spreading the virus. You'll be sure to kill your family members soon. Hashtag Team Virus. If you're not wearing a mask, you're working for the virus. Governor Sisolak is a coward and says the medical advisory team is considering requiring face coverings in public. We all know the truth behind this. A couple of weeks ago, when other states were instituting mask policies, Governor Sisolak said he was afraid there would be a rebellion. Sounds like a rebellion of stupid people. Let them die. They're in California, in Oregon, they've now required masks. Nevada is falling behind. It's a state-by-state issue now. We have to roll out state-by-state masks orders because we have no national government and we have no president. If Americans want to survive, if they want to kill the virus, it costs hardly anything to wear a mask, yet it stops the virus from spreading. It's just that simple. Remember the Spanish flu in 1918? People tried to capitalize on the outbreak by tapping into people's terror. Newspaper ads from the time show us how. They also had required mask wearing. Required mask wearing was the only thing that stopped the Spanish flu, and it seems like it's the only thing that's going to stop the coronavirus. Unless, of course, you don't want the coronavirus to stop, and it's good for you if the United States never reopens their economy. Who would you be? Representative Porter says her request for additional oversight of the Paycheck Protection Program. I'm going to stay on this until the American public gets the information they need and that I need as a lawmaker. So we need access to who got those PPP funds. And she's not going to stop until she finds out all of them, all of the businesses who got access to PPP funds. If you take government money, it's not a secret. If you can't take government money because you can't keep it secret, you shouldn't take government money. Team Virus continues to spread as Florida sets another single-day coronavirus record with more than 4,000 new cases. Great job with Florida, really spreading the way. Great job reopening and getting out there to those beaches to spread that virus. Good job, Florida. You're going to kill a lot of humans. Many young people from across the South are testing positive for coronavirus. Once again, the disease affects all age groups, whereas it might not kill young people, it might just ruin your lungs for the rest of your life. The rest of your life. It's just that funny, young people. It's just that funny. I've got another ad here from Midas Trump. They're really, Midas Touch, really working overtime. This one's about Donald Trump's relationship with his rich father, who gave him all of his money.
What is the secret of your success?
The president was given or inherited a large portion of his father's real estate fortune, worth at least $413 million today.
9 out of 10 people don't like what they do. They go from job to job, ultimately becoming nothing.
You'll absolutely love Trump steaks.
The 3 Atlantic City casinos filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection.
2 years after it opened, the company was history.
It never made a profit.
Trump University was fraudulent.
His family's charity accused of misusing funds.
Shakespeare said, never follow an empty wagon up here, never follow an empty wagon, because nothing ever falls off.
Never follow an empty wagon because nothing falls off. Killer quote from Fred Trump, who apparently, unlike the current Trump, had actually read Shakespeare. How amazing is that? The Tulsa Fire Department confirmed that the rally was only 6,200 people, well under the BOK Center's 19,200 capacity. Attorney Jeffrey Berman will testify in front of the House on Wednesday. As Jameson Lopp says, he who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty. Interesting quote when thinking about this president. Almost reminds you of that other one, that an unexamined life is not worth living. They say the president was joking about coronavirus. They're having a hard time understanding why the president would be joking with 119,000 Americans dead. More than died in Vietnam, more than died in World War I. Pretty crazy stuff. President received a report that only 25 people were assembled in the overflow space that the campaign had reserved for a crowd that they thought would top 40,000. 25 people. Here's a fantastic gas station from Germany, 1958. Look at the tile on the backdrop. Truly magnificent. And the graphics above, the neon lighting. What a beautiful gas station in Germany, 1958. Boomers. You lousy Zoomers can't do anything. Millennials, you're just TikTok and even more crushing financial dislocations. Gen X, show them what you got, kids. Zoomers, weaponize K-pop stands to destroy a Trump rally. Gen X, I love my kids. I was just talking about generations a couple days ago, and there it is. It comes up again. It's the Generation Z, the Zoomers, who apparently destroyed the Trump rally by making them believe it was far more popular than it actually was. It's Sunday. That means it's still Big Book Day, and we've got one more big book for you. This is Woody Allen. And again, everyone's critical of Woody Allen these days, so on and so forth. But if you go back, he made almost a movie every year, and most of them are really great. So check out Woody Allen. Here's Crimes and Misdemeanors, a great film with Martin Landau and a lot of chaos. Here's one of the not funny ones, Husband and Wives, more of a closet drama. He writes these plays and thinly veiled stories, usually about Woody Allen. Bullets Over Broadway, a great film, one of the funny ones. And again, this is just a film book, Pictures of Woody Allen retrospective. He also had an autobiography come out recently, although the book company, despite paying for it, when it was time to release it, they said no. It was promptly released by another book company, and I have the audiobook on my phone waiting for me. So check out some Woody Allen movies. I'd say Annie Hall is a great one. Sleepers is a classic. Also Stardust Memories, his Fellini film. A lot of them you have to see other films to know. You have to see like Bergman films to understand Shadows and Fog. You have to see Fellini films to understand Stardust Memories. Annie Hall's pretty understandable. Everyone likes Annie Hall. Or you can see some of the early funny ones like Bananas, or which is really good. It's pretty good now. Bananas is all about military dictatorships and Cuba and stuff like that. But Bananas, Take the Money and Run. That's a good one. So check out Woody Allen. He's not so bad. He's got a lot of good films. You can enjoy the films separate from the rest of the work. Or you can't. So it's up to you. Got to make your own choice. But again, I got the book for like $5 at the discount bin at Barnes & Noble. So I like it. And we've got a final closing video for you. This is G. Edward Griffin, and he's talking about communism. And it's interesting because a lot of it, although it's historical, has echoes that reach all the way into the present day. Let's check this out. A little video about communism. Let's see, is it going to play? This one's actually Facebook video. Oh, URL signature required. Okay, hold on a second. We're going to see what we can do about this. Because it was quite a good video. I was supposed to play it for you yesterday, but of course that didn't happen. So we'll see if I can find it today. Nope, that's not it. I thought I had a download copy of this as well, and it's giving me a URL error on the other one, but I could probably throw in this download version. There we go. All right, we're back in business. Let's watch this strangely prescient old film talking about communism as a threat to America.
As early as 1928, the communists declared that the racial differences among our people constituted the weakest and most vulnerable point in our social fabric. By constantly probing and straining at this one spot, they calculated that eventually the cloth could be torn apart and that Americans could be divided, weakened, and perhaps even set against each other in open combat. We mustn't kid ourselves into thinking that the communists have placed their agitators only into the black communities. They're working both sides of the street. They want hatred, violence, and bloodshed between the races, and they don't care how they get it or whom they use, even children if necessary. Here is a book that I think ought to be in every home library. It's entitled Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson. He joined the party as a young man because he honestly believed that the communists were trying to improve the conditions of his people. He was a dedicated communist, and eventually he rose to one of the highest ranks. But after many years, he discovered that instead they were merely planning to use his people in a bloody revolution to destroy America. And when he woke up to this, he dropped out of the party and devoted the rest of his life trying to alert his fellow citizens of all races to the true nature of the Communist Party as he knew it to be from the inside. Manning Johnson said, "Black rebellion was what Moscow wanted. Bloody racial conflict would split America. During the confusion, demoralization and panic would set in. Then finally the Reds say, workers stop work. Many of them seize arms by attacking arsenals. Street fights become frequent. Under the leadership of the Communist Party, the workers organize revolutionary committees to be in command of the uprising. Armed workers seize the principal government offices, invade the residences of the president and his cabinet members, arrest them, declare the old regime abolished, establish their own power." Now, here is a piece of vicious communist propaganda that perhaps some of you have seen. It's called The Crusader. It's written by Robert F. Williams, one of the organizers of the Revolutionary Action Movement. In this issue of The Crusader, the communists call not only for extensive chaos within the cities, but for putting to the torch every village, every forest, every field, and every barn. The plan is for raging fires from one city to the next. The reason? Well, first, there's the value of sheer destruction. Secondly, it would force us to deploy our defenses and rescue units over the widest possible area. The communists point out that as long as our police and National Guard remain concentrated, they're invincible. But if they can be forced to spread out over the entire city and into the countryside as well, then they can be picked off from ambush one by one. And the third value of massive fire to the communists is psychological. The average American, they say, soft and decadent, when he sees billows of black smoke rising from one horizon to the other, when at night the only light he has to see by is the flickering red from flames leaping into the sky, he'll become paralyzed with fear and panic. He'll run away and hide and do nothing to interfere with the guerrilla bands as they strike at the community's power centers. The Crusader explains how to set up sniper units in crowded metropolitan areas, how to manufacture jumbo Molotov cocktails, the gallon jug size, and how to mix the gasoline with certain ingredients to make it burn like napalm, how to pour gasoline into utility manholes in the streets to set fire to the main telephone cables, how to put sulfur tips from matches into air conditioning units and blow up large buildings, how to ignite gas mains and oil storage tanks. It explains how radio-controlled model airplanes can be used to fly explosive charges over heavily guarded fences into gasoline storage areas or munition stockpiles. It even calls for infiltration into the National Guard units, revolutionaries posing as non-militants for the purpose of getting free military training and for gaining access to critical military supplies and heavy weapons. And then, finally, Robert Williams says this: any all-out minority revolution must create a state of crisis wherein almost all of the male population would be forced to remain in their homes to protect their property and families. The middle class is very large, but it is not accustomed to deprivation and terror. Because of its affluence, it has waxed soft. It has no stomach for massive fire, blood, and violence. The motive force behind its life drive is its endless pursuit of prestige, conspicuous consumption, and sensual pleasure. A few years of violent, sporadic, and highly destructive uprisings will set the stage for the grand finale. After the stage is properly set through protracted struggle, America could be brought to her knees in 90 days of highly organized, fierce fighting, sabotage, and massive firestorm. Ladies and gentlemen, the plans and preparations for a communist revolution of force and violence are far advanced. The organization behind these preparations has almost unlimited financial resources, and it provides both training and leadership based upon years of experience in many other countries. Our enemies are deadly serious about their task, and it's nothing short of national suicide for us to continue to ignore their plans and their progress. The violent revolution becomes of primary value to the communists to the extent to which it can be used to condition the masses psychologically to accept the non-violent revolution, which is offered supposedly as the only alternative. Hoping to avoid further violence and bloodshed, the public is to be pressured into accepting measures that will move the country gradually and legally toward communism, but without calling it that. The strategy of the proletarian revolution calls for the quiet conversion of our government into a communist regime, but under the banner of socialism. Well, what is socialism? All right, let's define it. According to the dictionary, socialism is a political concept based upon the principle of government ownership and control of property, the means of production, and the avenues of commerce. Under socialism, those who run the government, and the communists are confident that in America they eventually will be the ones who do so, those who run the government will know who is to get something and who has to wait, and that represents control over human beings. What has all this to do with the communist revolution in America? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has everything to do with it, because the building of socialism is the communist revolution in America. It represents the process whereby our country can be moved gradually toward communism without the people even being aware of it. No matter what grievance we may have, real or imagined, no matter what national problems we may face, the communists seize upon these as excuses to build socialism. They have one and only one solution for all problems: more government, and then more and more until it's total government. And forgive me for saying it one more time. Total government is communism.
Pretty impressive old video there from G. Edward Griffin. The most interesting part, I thought, was at the beginning when he talked about the racial problems and how the communists would seek to highlight America's racial problems to tear the country apart. Almost like just now. Then the part where he was talking about how every able-bodied man would have to stay home to protect his property. Almost just like now. And how outside forces would seek to profit off of the destruction of America. How the communists had a plan to light America on fire, city to city, almost just like now with the provocateurs and the fake rioters sneaking in with the protesters, claiming to be protesters. Then, like that crazy guy with the umbrella and the crowbar just smashing windows, the girls with the hammers, the guy with the hammer smashing up pieces of the sidewalk so other people could use it, all the brick drops. Almost just like now. So interesting stuff. He goes a little far at the end, and it's a little out of date. As we know now, communism is really just more of a fig leaf to hide a Politburo or a ruling council, such as they have in China, or a single person in power, as they have in Russia. So it's not very communistic anymore. But, of course, he didn't know that talking in the 50s. So thanks so much to everybody for joining us. Thanks for giving us a thumbs up and a share. Subscribe down below. Hit the bell for notifications. Check out the World Crypto Network store at worldcryptonetwork.store. You can get your own Treasures Don't Float t-shirt or a Bitcoin Not Bombs 2020 Happening Edition. Check out the World Crypto Network podcast, where you can listen to audio-only versions of this show and the rest of the World Crypto Network. It's up to date on iTunes, Spreaker, Overcast, Spotify, and other places where podcasts are heard. Checking out the price of Bitcoin one more time before the end of the show. It's still up less than 1%. The price is up 0.93%, with a last of 9,368, a high of 9,432, and a low of 9,272. That's $1 for 10,673 Satoshis. Volume's a little low, but it's a Sunday with 1,424 Bitcoins changing hands. The market continues to lean long with 80% heading that direction, and Bitcoin dominance was at 65.64%. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.